Hey guys, so I know this lags a bit, so you have to watch me do whatever I'm doing as I wait for it to stream. Um, but let me see. Okay, cool. So what we're going to do first, I apologize if it's still echoing in any way because I don't really know. Mr. Fitzpatrick and I talked about it, but I don't really know what causes that. So if it's still doing it, let me know and we will look into it more. First, what I want to talk about with you guys is, again, this does lag slightly behind what I'm saying and what I'm doing. Hi. So I am going to be showing you guys how to do your introduction and your thesis today. So if you have any questions, like I did last time, I'm going to be looking in a different browser or whatever than this YouTube channel is in. Hello, everyone. We have so many people. Yeah, so I don't really know how to get rid of the echo because Mr. Fitzpatrick and I talked about it and it just keeps echoing. I'm hoping I can investigate it more over the weekend, but unfortunately it's all we really have right now. But as I was saying, we are going to go over your introduction and your thesis. If you guys have questions while I'm going over this, please ask them in the chat box because I'm going to be in this window. So I'm going to be concentrating more so on this than I will be the live stream. So just give me a second to answer your questions, but I will answer all of the questions that you have. So to start, your introduction paragraph along with your thesis statement are due on Tuesday, April 28th by midnight. I don't recommend waiting till midnight, but if you guys need to work on it late at night, that's fine too. I know a lot of you guys are sharing your Chromebook or device with either a family member or maybe even an adult. So your introduction and thesis statement is due. When submitting this, click on the Google Doc for this assignment, write your introduction, which will be 4 to 5 sentences, then make your thesis statement bold or highlight it. Again, we will go over an introduction paragraph and thesis statement before this assignment is due. That's what we're going to do right now. So you guys, like I said before, this is due on Tuesday. You guys will get feedback by Wednesday afternoon. I think everyone has been getting feedback before 11 a.m. each morning, so I would like to keep on track with that. Let me pop in. That's the wrong thing. Let me pop in for questions. Oh, thanks for calling me boss, Lucas. Okay, so we are going to dive into the presentation. So as I have already said 100 times, we are going to be going over our introduction paragraph along with the thesis statement. I'm going to show you guys how and where to upload that, how to write an introduction paragraph, what an introduction paragraph is, the parts of an introduction paragraph, and we're going to be going over our thesis. So moving on, I can define, write, and identify a thesis statement. This is your goal for the lesson today. So when we are done with our live stream today, you should be able to define, write, and identify a thesis statement. We have a couple little questions we're going to go over at the end of the presentation. I'll also be uploading this presentation to the Google Classroom, so you guys will have it in case you can't watch it live or if you need to go back and reference something. So what is an introduction paragraph? An introduction paragraph is extremely important to your essay. Why? Because it is the first thing someone reads. Think of your introduction as a first impression. You want to make a good first impression, right? It should not only tell your audience about what they will be reading, but it should also grab their attention and lure them into reading. So think about if you guys, I know not all of you guys have jobs because most of you watching are in 6th grade, but when you go in for an interview, you want to make a good first impression because you want to get a job there, you want to make money, you want to show the people that you are interviewing with that you're trustworthy, that you're a good person. That's kind of what an introduction paragraph is. If you go in there and you don't do your best or present your best or you don't be honest with people, you won't get the same reaction. So an introduction has 3 main parts. So there are, step 1 is the attention grabber, step 2 is the bridge, and step 3 is the thesis. So let me check in to see if there were questions really quick. Sorry that I keep doing this. Oh, Dimitri, you got a phone? That's cool. I don't know if I can live stream on my phone because I have a pretty old iPhone. I don't think it would want me to do something like that. Okay, so back to our presentation because no one has questions yet. So the attention grabber. The definition is pretty straightforward. You want to grab someone's attention with what you're going to say. So you can either use a famous quote from the person you are researching. So I'll show you guys the example that I am doing after this. But I'm doing Toni Morrison, so I might want to look up Toni Morrison quotes. It's pretty easy for me because Toni Morrison is an author, so she writes a lot. She's has tons of quotes. You can do a startling fact. So if you guys are researching, I think Trevor is researching the rainforest. So if Trevor wanted to put something about how much of the rainforest we've destroyed just to build houses or build things for ourselves, that would definitely get my attention. Or you can set the scene. So another example, I think James is doing some type of dinosaur. I'm not going to try to pronounce it because I don't know how to pronounce it. But you could say, imagine you're walking through a green foresty area. You hear sounds in the background. You turn around and there's a ginormous crocodile behind you. That's what it's like to set the scene. You kind of want to paint the picture for your reader. Setting the scene is good, but it can take up a lot of space, like a lot of sentences. So I would kind of use that one as a last resort. You could do a simile or metaphor. Remember, a simile is comparing two things using like or as, and a metaphor is making a comparison, but saying that it is that thing. So if I want to talk about how tall someone is, I could say they are a skyscraper. You can use that. So if I wanted to do a simile on Toni Morrison, I could put Toni Morrison is like, or reading Toni Morrison stories is like eating chocolate because you kind of assume chocolate is being good, and reading her stories and stuff are good. You could also do a thought-provoking question. So I'm going to go back to James, his topic for this one, because again, he's doing like a prehistoric dinosaur crocodile. So you could put something like, could you imagine if we still lived amongst dinosaurs today? Because you want your attention, or your attention grabber, which is your thought-provoking question, to grab someone's attention, not so much to the point that they get completely sidetracked and don't want to read the rest of your essay, but it allows them to actually pause for a second and think, how different would my life be if I looked out my window right now and saw a T-Rex walking down the street? Would we even have houses if we had T-Rexes still roaming around on our Earth? So then the bridge. The bridge goes between the attention grabber and the thesis. The hook is used to add I should say the bridge. The bridge and the hook are kind of the same thing. The hook is used to add any background information in order to link your attention grabber and your thesis. Your bridge is usually 2 to 4 sentences. If you are trying to do the bare minimum and write 2 sentences, writing doesn't necessarily work like that because you need to make sure that you have all of the information. So if your attention grabber is 1 sentence and your thesis is 1 sentence, your bridge might sometimes even have to be 5 sentences to make the connection between the attention grabber and the thesis. That's why it's called a bridge, because it connects 2 individual things. I'm going to show you guys an example of my bridge for Toni Morrison. So I will show you an example of that in a second. Let me jump back to see if anyone has questions. Okay. Hey, Lena. You guys are all just saying hi to each other. That's fine. Okay, jumping back into the PowerPoint. Okay, so then your thesis. Thesis is kind of a big, scary sounding word, but it definitely does not need to be. The thesis acts as a map for the rest of your paper. So think about if your parents have ever given you directions to go somewhere. Like if your parents want you to go to a specific corner store, they might say, walk all the way to the end of the street at the stop sign. Look both ways. Cross the street. When you cross the street, make a right. Walk past 3 houses. When you pass the blue house, the corner store will be on your left. So they're kind of giving you a map, but it's in word form. They're not necessarily like drawing you pictures of your neighborhood. So your thesis acts as a map for the rest of your paper. Your thesis should focus on and mention the main points you will be covering in your paper. So if, again, I'm doing Toni Morrison, I need to mention Toni Morrison somewhere in my thesis statement. You absolutely have to mention your topic in your thesis statement. Otherwise, no one will know what your paper is about. You should also include, I like to break it down, is start your sentence with your topic, so Toni Morrison, and then what do you want your first paragraph to be about? Well, I'm going to focus on her childhood for my first paragraph. So it could be Toni Morrison, something about her childhood, which then later affected her adulthood, because I'm going to split my research paper into her childhood and then move into her adulthood. Remember, your thesis is only one sentence. Your thesis sentence statement might be a long sentence, but it should still only be one sentence. If you feel that you need to have a 2-sentence thesis statement, send it to me and I can help you find a way to make it into a 1-sentence thesis statement. Okay, I'm going to pop out of here again, see if you guys have questions. I have so many tabs open. Okay, still no questions. We are good to go. Moving back over here. So this is my example. So Ms. Miller's introduction paragraph. I think writing your introduction paragraph in 3 separate parts like this is really helpful because you can check whether or not you have that. So if you're really worried about not having an attention grabber, I recommend grabbing a piece of paper, or you can even do it in a separate Google Doc and writing a heading that says attention grabber, write a heading that says bridge, and write a heading that says thesis. So what you're going to do is think of your attention grabber. Like I said, Toni Morrison is an author, so she has a lot of quotes because she's written a handful of really famous novels. So I put Toni Morrison once tweeted, if there's a book you really want to read, but it hasn't been written yet, then you must write it. So this is a quote that's supposed to make you pause and start thinking about what the author has said, or in my case, it's an author, or about what the person you're researching has said. Your attention grabber, if you are doing a quote, should relate to your thesis statement. I know there's a lot of, I think one of you guys, I think it's David, is doing Michael Jackson. There are plenty of Michael Jackson songs and lyrics that you could use. But if you are researching Michael Jackson's life, I probably want to pick a Jackson 5 lyric because he was only a kid when those songs came out, so they don't necessarily apply to his entire life. So keep that in mind if you want to use a quote, that your quote should kind of go along with your thesis statement and should make sense with your thesis statement. So this is just one example of how Morrison lived her life. Throughout Morrison's life, she realized that female African Americans were not given the place in literature they deserve. This drove Morrison to create many of the literature works she is known for today. So my bridge is 3 sentences. Like I said, it can be a minimum of 2, but it needs to make sense. You need to cover all of your background information. So this is just one example of how Morrison lived her life. This sentence right there, I just pointed to it like you guys could see it. The first sentence in my bridge references the quote. The quote was an example of how Toni Morrison lived her life. Throughout Morrison's life, she realized that female African Americans were not given the place in literature they deserve. Toni Morrison, despite her name being Toni, is a female and she is an African American woman. And as she started her career in college and kind of as she started to get into the workforce, she realized that things weren't fair for her. She had a lot of disadvantages. So then this drove Morrison to create many of the literature works she is known for today. She's a famous author. She's won prizes and awards for her writing. Which then moves into my thesis. Toni Morrison pieced together the broken parts of her childhood to create a place for fictional African American women and real African American women, and real African American like herself in our current world. I made a typo. My bad. So this kind of gives you an idea of what I'm going to be talking about. So like I addressed earlier, I'm going to talk about her childhood in my first paragraph. And then I'm going to talk more so about her adult life as an African American woman in my second paragraph. We're not going to worry about the fourth paragraph yet, which is the conclusion, because we just haven't gotten that far yet. So let me pop out of here, see if you guys have questions on this. No, you guys are still, okay, that's fine, you guys are still good. I will tell you guys, if you are writing your research paper and it doesn't look exactly like mine, please don't stress. I've been writing research papers since I was in 7th grade, and I am now graduated from high school, graduated from college, and now I'm teaching you how to write a research paper, so trust me, my research paper wasn't this good, my first one. Even in college, I probably didn't write that many great ones. So moving on to our next slide. So what does it look like all together? Broken down, it does not look like I have a lot there. And I really only have 5 sentences in this paragraph, but it does look like a bigger, well put together paragraph. So Toni Morrison once tweeted, if there's a book you really want to read but it hasn't been written yet, then you must write it. This is just one example of how Morrison lived her life. Throughout Morrison's life, she realized that female African Americans were not given the place in literature they deserve. This drove Morrison to create many of the literature works she is known for today. Toni Morrison pieced together the broken parts of her childhood to create a place for fictional African American women and real African American women like herself in our current world. I recommend too, when you guys are writing, if you choose to write it like this in 3 separate parts, I recommend putting it in one paragraph, because then you have a better idea of how it flows. If you read it like this, so let's say you wrote it like this first, and then you type it all out like this, and it doesn't make sense, just work on it, rewrite it, email me, ask me questions. I'll help you guys figure out how to write your introduction paragraph. Another note that I put here, always remember to indent at the start of each new paragraph. I will show you guys how to do that when I actually turn in my introduction paragraph. But you should have that little space right here where your first word is sort of towards the middle of the paragraph and not right where the text box starts. So let's see here. We're not going to do that yet. So let me check to see if you guys have any more questions. Nope. Okay, we're good. So what I'm going to do is, remember, I have this sample classroom that I made, and then you guys have your Google Classroom, but again, I couldn't make one that looks just like yours. So here is my sample classroom. You can see I added the assignment, your introduction paragraph, and thesis statement. You can either click on it there or go to classwork. I like to go to classwork. Something cool that I realized the other day that maybe you guys have already caught on to is if you haven't turned in an assignment, it stays, I think for you guys it would be pink. Is it pink? Yes, pink. But for my class, it would be blue. So then if you realize you haven't turned something in yet, it'll be blue. It won't be grayed out like this. So I'm going to click on my introduction paragraph and then click on the assignment. And then give it a second, but it'll load this Google Doc. Maybe. Okay. This is where I want you guys to turn in your final thesis statement. So I'm going to cheat because I already wrote mine. And I'm going to copy it. And I'm just going to paste it. Maybe? Oh, I think it pasted in white. Yeah, I don't want it to be pasted in white. Let's fix that really quick. We will make it black. And then this, I missed a letter. Okay, so let's pretend that I didn't already indent it. So what you're going to do to indent is you are going to go on your keyboard. Unfortunately, I can't show you my keyboard. And there's a tab button. You're just going to hit tab, and then it'll indent the paragraph for you. But you're just going to type up your introduction and thesis statement here. If you look at the directions in the Google Classroom and you look at the directions in your packet that got sent home with you guys, it says to either highlight or bold your thesis statement. So I'm going to hover over that part, and to do bold, you can either just hit the B button, or if you want to highlight it, you can go to this little pencil looking thing and hit highlight. And then you can pick whatever color you want, but please do it in a color that I can still read your writing. So I'll do it in red. And then this kind of lets me know when I'm looking at your paper what your argument is. Because when you're first writing a research paper, it can be kind of hard to make sure that all of your information goes along with your thesis statement. So if you feel like you don't have the perfect thesis statement or the perfect introduction, don't worry about it. It's not a big deal. Dakota, you turned in an assignment to me today on the Google Classroom. I'll email you when this is done. Okay, but this is all you guys have to do with your introduction and thesis statement. You guys have, if you want to, you can work on it today. You have all of the weekend, and then you have Monday and Tuesday to work on it. So you have a pretty long time to work on this. My only word of advice to you is please don't email me at 10:30 at night on Tuesday being like, I don't know how to start my introduction, because I will probably not be checking my email at 10:30 at night. So if you have questions, ask them. Not right now, but please ask before like Tuesday afternoon. When you guys have all of this, you're just going to go up here to turn in. And then I have 2 different Google Classrooms open right now, so that's why it's doing this. But we're going to pretend that it turned in. And then we are going to... Actually, I'm going to check for questions really quick. Okay, we don't have any questions so far. So I'm going to jump to the next slide. So I have 3 questions. I'll read these to you, and I want you guys to go into the chat box, and I want you to write what you think the thesis statement is for this one. So what sentence from this paragraph is the thesis statement? How many people have courage? A lot of people think they have courage until they have to stand up for what is right when everyone else may not. In the book To Kill a Mockingbird by Harper Lee, courage is a very common occurrence. The book especially shows courage through the characters Mrs. DuBose, Atticus, and Boo Radley. Throughout the story, Jem and Scout learn that real courage is standing up for what one believes is right, even if most would not. Okay, so I'm going to go back to the chat box. Let me know what you guys think is the thesis statement. I have 8 of you watching, which means I should get at least... Okay, so To Kill a Mockingbird, Dimitri, would be like your topic, not the thesis statement. Let me go. This is really hard because I can't keep this up for you guys. Okay, so I'll help you out with this one. Your thesis statement, look at the order it goes in. Wrong side. Look at the order that it goes in here. You have your attention grabber goes first, your bridge is in the middle, and your thesis statement is last. So if your thesis statement goes last, what sentence, you don't have to type out the whole sentence, what sentence in this paragraph do you think is the thesis statement? I'm going to give you guys a second and then jump back over to the chat box. It's so awkward with this lags. So keep in mind your thesis statement is one of the last things to go in your introduction. Anyone have a guess? Okay, Dimitri, you don't have a guess? Anyone else want to take a guess? No one? Okay. I have to go back to this one. Excuse me. So, throughout the story, Jem and Scout learn that real courage is standing up for what one believes is right, even if most would not. The thesis statement is usually the last sentence in your introduction. Because your thesis statement, again, acts like a map for everything else that you're going to be reading. Plus, your thesis statement acts as a transition into your first body paragraph. So, your thesis statement would be that one. I'll highlight it too because the bold doesn't look much different. So that is your thesis statement. But I have another one for you guys. Okay. So what sentence from this paragraph is the thesis statement? Sure, everyone has heard the cliche term to walk a mile in someone's shoes, but has anyone ever slowed down to consider what it actually means? What must one do to really see from another's point of view? In the small fictional town of Macomb, Alabama, Scout and Jem learn many truths and lessons about people from their lawyer father, Atticus, while he has been hired to defend a black man who has been falsely accused of a crime against a white woman. In Harper Lee's To Kill a Mockingbird, she shows that the only way to understand a person is to try to see things from their perspective. So I'm going to pause for a second so you guys can read it if you need to. And jump back over to the chat box to see if you guys can answer that one. Oh, Dakota, don't step on this table. That's not great. So let me know what you guys think the thesis statement is in this paragraph. Remember what I told you from last time. Anyone want to take a guess? No one wants to guess? Okay. I'm going to give you guys one more minute to take a guess. Like I said... Oh. Well, be careful, Dakota. Like I said, when you guys are looking at this paragraph, where if you look at my sample student paragraph, look at the sentence that I underlined or I bolded and highlighted, and then if we jump back over here, look at the sentence that I underlined it, I bolded and highlighted. Where is that sentence in the paragraph? Take a guess, Dimitri. Look at the two examples. Where is the sentence that is the thesis statement? Yes, Dimitri, good. So the last, go back to the correct slide. The last sentence, which is this one, is our thesis statement. We know this is the thesis statement because it talks about, think of to walk a mile in someone else's shoes. The thesis statement talks about, she shows that the only way to understand a person is to try and see things from their perspective. So their perspective, where is it? Someone else's shoes. Look at this too. It also talks about our author and the title of the book. So it talks about all three things that were kind of mentioned in this paragraph. I have one more for you guys. This one should be a little easier because it is multiple choice. So what thesis statement would work best for the paragraph below? So you guys are going to look at the three different multiple choice answers. Education is a luxury in America. In many other countries, children and adults who know the importance of education wish they were as fortunate as Americans. A good education is not only rewarding, but it is very important. So A, education is important for many reasons. Education is important because it's free and it lets you be anything you want to be. Or education is important because it is the key that unlocks many extraordinary opportunities for an individual. So think of, it's definitely going to go at the end of this paragraph. We've already kind of covered that. But which one of these options has the most detail and talks about some of the things that were mentioned in these previous three sentences up here? So A, B, or C. I'm going to jump back over to the chat. Okay. So Dakota says A, Dimitri says B, Lucas says yes. Okay, so I'm going to jump back over to this. So I would not say it's A because it says education is important for many reasons. Well, your thesis is supposed to act like a map. So you're going to want to give those reasons. You could put education is important because it allows you more knowledge. You can get a job. You have access to lots of different things. You want it to be specific. So this one is not very specific. For B, education is important because it's free and lets you be anything you want to be in life. So this one is really tricky too. I really do like this as a thesis statement, but I would not say that one is the best one. So that leaves us with C. Education is important because it is the key that unlocks many extraordinary opportunities for an individual. But again, this one is not super specific either. So I would honestly say if you did B or C, I would give you credit for it because they could be more specific, but they both specifically talk about, like this one's going to talk about the extraordinary opportunities, and this one will probably talk about jobs because it says you can be anything you want to be in life. So I'm going to jump back over here. Does anyone else have questions before we go? Because it is 3:01. I'm the master at running over our time. I don't want to leave till anyone, or if anyone has questions, I can answer them. Which makes it weird that it lags. Again, too, if you guys are feeling kind of confused about this, like I said, I do still check my email over the weekend. Okay, Dakota doesn't have any questions, but I do check my email over the weekend. If you guys want to leave a comment either on the video or in the Google Classroom, you can. I'm not telling you to wait until last minute, but you have until Tuesday. You have, I think, the most time to write this paragraph because starting your research paper is the hardest part. So if you're feeling kind of discouraged right now, like, don't worry. We will get through it. But I guess that's all I have for you guys today. Like I said, if you have questions, you can comment on this, email me, go to the Google Classroom, whatever you need. We will find a way to get to each other. But I will see you guys Monday at 2:30.